Three, two, one, go.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Triad of the Forest podcast, a podcast from Puerto Rican friends coming together to do deep dives into Star Wars and other nerd-related media. Of course, we are reviewing season 3 of The Mandalorian.
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing. Today, we are focusing on chapter 18, The Return of R5. Oh, wait, no. The Rise of bo-katan. Wait, no. The Mines of Mandalore. There was so much in this episode. I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself.
Those were all good, and you kind of caught me off guard with The Return of R5, and I was just like, whoa. That's not what it's called.
So you even have like a Revenge of Pelimoto.
Oh.
Yes.
Or where's Pelly's tooth? It's like, you should have watched the Book of Boba Fett.
But before we get started, we would like to introduce our guest for today, Jarod the Dark Jedi from the Nerd Academy podcast. Welcome, Jarod, to the Triad.
Hello,
What's up, sir?
I'm so honored to be here. I'm so excited. It's been a long time coming. In terms of scheduling, I've been very excited. And like I said, we said briefly before we started. You know, I realized that like I had been pre-scheduled for several podcasts to make a guest appearance to talk about this episode. And Wednesday night at like 3 a.m, I'm like not even halfway done. And I'm like, there's a lot of meat on the bone for this one. I drew a very large straw, and it is going to be a lot of talking. So
it was definitely a delicious straw.
It was a great week to be a Star Wars fan. It really was.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna do you one better.
In general.
There we go. It's a great time. I'm so glad Star Wars is dead. Honestly, because I think if Star Wars were alive, it would never be this good.
Truly, we might as well be living in the third dark times. It's not like there's been like what's the like grand total, like 20 Star Wars stories coming out in March of 2023, like that crazy, like between the comics and books and so on and so forth. Nothing Star Wars is dead.
Right.
Thank God. It's fine. And I'm glad Kathy Kennedy killed it. Well, yeah, and let's get to that. Like before we get into the Mines of Mandalore or the Return of R5 or where's Pelly's tooth, Jarod, you're a first time guest on the show, and you have to cross the river of fire, I guess, and go through a little bit of the interview. It's a shitty interview. We want to talk about Mandalorian, but tell us a little bit about who is Jarod, who is the Dark Jedi.
I am a remarkably vain man. I'm a remarkably vain man. So this is my favorite part of going on a new podcast for the first time.
Awesome. We love it.
Yeah, no, I'm Jarod, Bachman Stubbs, the Dark Jedi, if you're nasty. And I am the host of the Nerd Academy podcast. We do mostly entertainment news right now on the comic book, comic book movie, TV side of things has been a little dry because we haven't any new Marvel shows or anything like that yet. Hoping to have a review for Shazam out whenever that comes out. But that's been a little bit dry or on the dry end. Right now we've been covering The Mandalorian and The Bad Batch on our Star Wars show, Knights of the Nerd Republic. And yeah, that's our jam over there. We got a couple like special shows that are basically on a long-term hiatus just because I recently moved and schedules weren't quite aligning the way we prefer them to. But yeah, life comes at you fast.
Oh my God.
Lifelong nerd, lifelong Star Wars fan, and I could not have picked a better time to get in the game than I did. About 5 years ago now. That hit me like a freight train the other day. Going on like 5 years because I started doing this back in 2018 with Dewback Discussion. Set up the Nerd Academy with some of my closest friends at the very beginning of 2020. So yeah, you can go check us out wherever you listen to podcasts and YouTube as well for our video versions.
Awesome. Beautiful. Curious, because everyone's Star Wars story is a little bit, well, I used to think everyone's Star Wars story was the same. Well, I saw, A New Hope with my daddy-o. But apparently, I mean, that's one of the great things
you were wrong.
Discovered.
Goose, you're always wrong about everything.
I am. Well, not everything. Just the things that I say on this podcast. I'm always right when I'm not recording, but when I'm recording, always right.
Of course, right.
It's the great paradox of life.
Yeah, but there's no evidence of that, so
that's precisely the problem. God damn it!
Yeah.
God damn it!
Got to get
Trust
it
me,
on
guys.
wax.
Trust me. Fucking so what's your journey? Like, how did you engage with Star Wars for the first time? What was the entry point, so to speak?
So I, like a lot of people, have that, my dad sat me down, wanted to show me the original trilogy. It was similar to that. Only he sat me down, wanted to show me A New Hope first, and I was horrified. I was a little kid. The firefight at the beginning of A New Hope aboard the Tantive V4 scared the bejesus out of me as a kid. And by the time it was over and I was like, Darth Vader walked out, I freaked out and I was like, turn it off. I'm done. None of this. And much to her chagrin, my mom was like, no, give it another shot. I think you'll really like this. I'm like, okay. And now a podcast, 4 tattoos later, and it's everybody else's problem. But no, I as a kid, I think my favorite movie as a kid was The Phantom Menace. My dad and I played this video game all. It was on the original Xbox. I love talking about this game. It's terrible, and it is
the Obi-Wan game.
Obi-Wan. Oh my god, I love that game. It is everything to me. I need to get. We have 2 like original Xboxes in like my family's home that I need to steal back so I can do my yearly playthrough of Star Wars Obi-Wan. But the game picks up like a couple months before The Phantom Menace, and then it runs through the events of Episode 1. And I played the game with my dad all the time. It was the beginning of like my propensity for glup shittoism, because there was a 2-player like versus mode where you got to play as like different members of the Jedi Council, who you unlocked in like bonus sparring matches. It was nothing impressive. It was none of like the crazy like non-humanoids like Oppo or Yariel or Yoda or Yaddle. It was everybody who could feasibly just be like a dude. So that nothing too crazy there. But yeah, no, that was my favorite game, and like the entire aesthetic of it. It was very like Coruscant noir, for like the first chunk of the game, and all the Jedi Council stuff, the Jedi Temple. Like the main menu music was Duel of the Fates. Like the menu was kind of like stylized to like look like the plasma like reactors during the Duel of the Fates. So like that music, that iconography of the Phantom Menace, specifically the Naboo and Coruscant stuff, it really colored how I engage with Star Wars. And in the same way that I think a lot of OT fans, when they see like Luke and Leia swinging across the chasm or the trench run, or any of those like comparable moments throughout the original trilogy movies, like for me that is like Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon like carving their way through the B1s at the very beginning. Which I think like down the road is also like why I like was so quick to fall in love with the High Republic, was because like again it is that very heroic, the kind of hope that only Superman can inspire, like heroism and aesthetic, for lack of a better word, that you get from that High Republic era. So yeah, and then as time went on, I became a little Legends fanboy. My uncle, for my birthday when I was like 6 or 7, got me this like Star Wars encyclopedia, and it was basically like the Encyclopedia Britannica but for Star Wars. It was more like a history book for Star Wars, I guess I should say. So and it picked up with like the Tales of the Jedi. Back in my day, Tales of the Jedi had a fella named Exar Kun.
It was a comic book.
Yeah, it was a comic book with Exar Kun.
None of this Filoni foolhardy.
No baby Ahsoka's taming saber-toothed tigers. It was Exar Kun and Ulic.
None of this woke Dooku stuff.
Yeah, and a cockroach elephant, a red cockroach elephant man named Vodosias Boss with a lightsaber-proof stick. I love Legends. But yeah, so I just read that book like front to back, and it like picked up, like I said, Tales of the Jedi stuff, and like ended. There was a special edition he got me for my birthday a couple years later that ended with like the Star Wars Legacy stuff, and I just read that front to back like countless times. It had this like encyclopedic knowledge as a child of like all this legend stuff that I had never like firsthand experienced or read or played or anything like that. I just like knew like this entire fake history. So yeah, as time went on, I like many, I was like 13 when the Disney buyout happened, approximately 13 or 14.
The apocalypse, according to some.
And I will admit I was a little apocalyptic at the time, not in that weird like, oh, Mary Sue kind of way, but just like, well, I like my books. Give me my books back, please. But hey, surprise!
They're taking away our guns and our Star Wars books.
Yeah. Well, Kathleen Kennedy's taking the Darth Plagueis novels and burning them in the backyard. That is 5 minutes in, and I'm already doing the Alex Jones voice. We're doing great. But folks, sorry. But yeah, no. So I was a little melancholy about that. But as time went on, I really started to appreciate the direction that the new canon went in. I think the biggest difference between the two has always been that like the new canon really leans into the mysticism of Star Wars, where the Legends continuity was way more invested in the how than the why, and it's not necessarily a bad thing by any means. But I think it's a difference in aesthetic, and as time has gone on, I've very much converted to being a Disney canon kind of guy. But it's I am a shill. I am a hardcore shill. Okay. I got the sticker right on my laptop, but yeah, no, it is very possible to enjoy both as I do. So yeah, it's the long and short of my Star Wars journey. The Last Jedi is my favorite movie. So I served in the great fandom wars of 2017 and onward. Seasoned vet. I've lost some patience along the way, but yeah,
it's beautiful.
It happens to the best of us. The losing of the patience.
Yeah,
I'm enthralled. What a beautiful story.
Yeah, one thing led to another, and then I ended up becoming, like that ended up with like a patron haunted cookie cop jars.
And it's I feel like it's staring at me, but
yeah, it definitely stares.
It's all for the better. And that's amazing, and all of that has led to this moment, a moment where there's this collaboration between Jarod and the Triad of the Force, and it's a beautiful thing where we can chill together and talk about the show that everyone was unanimous about a couple of years ago was the only good thing Disney Star Wars has ever done, but all of a sudden it's gross. It's a Mandalorian. It's not high art like Andor, and
it's not as good as Andor.
And it's gross now. It's like, oh my god. Hey, what do you think about like this whole backlash that Mandalorian season 3 all of a sudden is facing after all the fanboys were crying over Luke's appearance in season 2? I'm not gonna name them because we don't name toxic people here, but what do you think of this like betrayal that Mando and Pedro Pascal are suffering? Well, not Pedro Pascal. I take that back. Mando is suffering.
I think it's really interesting. I think along the way, and I've talked about this before, and it's a dichotomy that I don't even like using or engaging with. But somewhere between The Last Jedi and the Book of Boba Fett, the Star Wars fandom decided, and I use it as a very broad stroke because obviously not everybody uses this very strange binary. But for some reason, a lot of the fandom has decided that everything is either The Last Jedi or season 2 of The Mandalorian. And that like and one of those is subversive, it is high art, it is playing with genre, it is playing with concepts and kind of like breaking things down to their building blocks and rebuilding them in a transformative different way, something like Andor, or things are like dumb popcorn dreck with that has an over reliance on nostalgia and all of these buzzwords, and that's like, again, everything is either The Last Jedi or season 2 of The Mandalorian, for better or worse. And I think that binary is obviously incredibly reductive. I think you could even simplify it even more down to everything is either The Last Jedi or The Rise of Skywalker, is how a lot of things are looked at. So when you have something that is as transgressive as Andor, that is so brutally and openly anti-fascist, anti-capitalist, or at least something that is made by something that is corporate art can be. That because it is saying the semi-quiet part out loud that all Star Wars has always said, it becomes this high art. You're coming off the heels of something like Obi-Wan Kenobi, which, for everything I love about it, say what you will, it can, whether or not you mean it in good faith or not, be looked at as like this, it's this big, prequel nostalgia bait. It's just like Gen X with the OT. We're going to do the same thing to millennials with the PT now. I don't necessarily subscribe to that viewpoint, but like, if you're looking at it through a very cynical lens, you see something like Obi-Wan that did not have the production value that Andor did, which, whatever, conversations about the volume be damned, not worth having, at least for me.
Yeah.
But you have something that did not have the production value that Andor did, that in some ways relied on nostalgia. Again, weird conversation about what constitutes nostalgia, all the weird conversations, and the internet collectively deciding they don't understand what a cameo is, all of these weird conversations that roll down the hill into a show like Andor that is, this great slow burn, dark, gritty, adult, serious, transgressive show. So it's like, this isn't just good for Star Wars, this is good for period. And it's like, okay, cool. Like, all of these other stories are also just about just as much about anti-fascist action and all of this stuff, especially the Mandalorian, which is like really getting into this element of like the First Order, the Empire never goes away. This level of fascism never disappears. It's the greatest generation saying we beat the Nazis. We elected Obama. Racism is over. We've destroyed fascism. Like, I have horrible news for you. Wars on nouns never go well. Stuff like that. So to actually answer your question and stop rambling, I think it's silly that we've just collectively decided that the Mandalorian is lesser than Andor. I think they're telling different stories. This is a story about family. It is about religious trauma. It is about a marginalized group of people coming back from a very near extinction and genocide at the hands of the same fascists we see in Andor.
Right.
And Andor was about the tiny ways that the Empire's evil slowly start to crescendo into heinous acts like the annihilation of Alderaan, whereas the Mandalorian largely is about all of the people who are affected by those larger evils, like the Jedi, the Mandalorians, etc., etc., etc. So I think it requires a cynical mind and a cynical eye to kind of just go, the show about the baby isn't high art.
Yeah. Not anymore. It used to be, but it's not anymore.
We used to talk about the Mandalorian being this sweeping, like mythic, epic, like samurai western. But because Ahsoka and Luke Skywalker showed up in it and its spin-off, like, it's just Drek now, and we hate the Book of Boba Fett either because of disagreements about story structure or Vespas, I guess. And it also there's also a weird, like, I said this before in a conversation with everybody's like mutual friend of the show, Alden Diaz.
Who?
In the the boogeyman of Star Wars Twitter.
Twitter's greatest enemy, I've heard.
Yes. That there's something very interesting that happened where, like, the part of the internet that was like really into The Last Jedi, parts of that group of people got radicalized by the Phantom Menace. And I'm never going to be the person who like equates them, because you can't. One is a thinly veiled hate group, the other is a bunch of people who like have really weird myopic opinions about Star Wars. But at the end of the day, there's this like sect of the Star Wars fandom that was like super cool from 2017 to 2019. That like after the Rise of Skywalkers kind of went batshit crazy, and has this weird like oscillating opinion about what is good in Star Wars. that has made those conversations more difficult, because then you have to parse out like who, like, do we want to have an actual conversation about tone and theme with,
Right.
who do we want to actually like have like a dialogue with about art, and then who are the people who went, it's woke because that woman shot a guy, and it's shut up.
Yeah,
But
that's not the point.
Yeah, not
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Go.
No.
You don't have to go home. You can't stay here. The grown-ups are talking.
You're definitely giving me like a really good idea for when we get back to regular scheduled episodes. Because right now, with Bad Batch and Mandalorian, like there's too many things to be recording to.
And then right after that, just slapping you on the ass and sending you to Celebration in the middle.
Exactly. So once everything calms down, I think there's a good topic that you touched on that we're gonna have to bring you back for, because there's
that is my favorite thing to hear, is that I accidentally weaseled my way into his second appearance before I'm even done with the first one.
That was good. I like it. There's a lot. There's definitely a lot to digest there. A lot that I definitely agree with, because we've definitely seen that, and it's interesting. Obviously, we don't want to make this the fandom episode, because I know people, if you haven't dropped off at this point, we will talk about Mando. Don't worry, we will talk about Mando. These conversations.
It's funny. These conversations end up following me on every show I do, and I had to accept that when I was like, you know what, I'm going to be the one to finally do an episode about the Phantom Menace. That I was like, and I'm going to talk about this for forever now, and I'm glad, because nobody talks about it enough.
It's an important conversation. I think the second part of it that I think somehow it's. I'm not gonna say more important, because the Phantom Menace is particularly troubling, but I think one of the interesting things that have been happening, like you said, like after 2019 in the post-Andor world, has been like that fraction, how fandom has refractured again within the quote-unquote positive fandom, and how they're fracturing amongst themselves, which is very, very
part of it is a labeling issue. That like that in 2017 the Star Wars fandom basically split in half.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like it was groups of people who either liked things or maybe even didn't like things, but weren't lunatics about it. And then there are people who realized they could make a career being like nerd QAnon about a movie, and we haven't recovered from it. Like it. Not to accidentally plug, but I alluded to it earlier. Alden and I did a 2-parter. It's on both of our podcast feeds, called "The Phantom Menace and How We Got Here," and like. You can draw a direct line from like The Last Jedi hate January 6th, and it's just 100%. Out of control. So the part of the fandom that cultivated that incredibly, like echo chambery toxic sect of the fandom, the other side of it, by comparison, is going to be like rubber stamped, the positive side of the fandom. We, as any type of even moderately socially progressive, movement in our outfit does, slowly started to eat each other alive. So now you have these like other weird mini sects, and we're all like arguing with each other all the time. And then occasionally, someone will poke their head in and go like, Ray Palpatine is very soon, Kathleen Kennedy to start Star Wars, and John Favreau and Dave Filoni are going to ask Kathleen Kennedy, and they're going to, and then the sequel trilogy is going to be decanonized, and it's like it's a mess.
It's the abyss staring back, as they say.
And we are all blinking a lot.
We are. We fall for the bait. But with that, that's a to be continued. This is not the end of that conversation. We are going to pick that up post celebration, because I am
sizzle.
2023 has already been a year. I'm already exhausted, and I think I need to like sleep for like 2 months after celebration and recover. So. And in July or maybe August, expect the podcast to start again, and we'll pick this conversation up. But without further ado, where is Pelimato's tooth? Nani, let's start with you right now, because I know last week we were talking about the expectations that we have for the second episode. It was a little unfair to talk to you about it, because both Molly Damon, and I had seen the second episode. So we were trying to tiptoe around it
a little bit.
We were trying to be kind.
I know.
And considerate.
But I could feel the excitement and could not join until yesterday when I watched it. Finally. Oh my God.
And
even with the expectations I got from the excitement, that was not what I was expecting. I thought we were going to spend half the season trying to get to Mandalore. And we got 2 journeys to Mandalore in episode 2. It was fantastic. It flipped the direction that I thought the season was going to go into. It flipped my expectations of the storytelling path that they were going to go on, because it just broke away from the formula that I thought they were going to use again. And it just blew me away. And there was, that episode never stopped. I remember we were talking about chapter 17, that it was on the shorter side, but they still packed a lot of stuff. And then this one was a little bit on the longer side, and it went like that. It never stopped. It was just, and it stopped in that perfect moment. And I just, it blew me away. It stopped, and I was like, what did I just watch? And like you said, I don't want to say nostalgia as a bad thing, but there was so much. I felt like I was back in the Clone Wars and and the prequels, and there was Rebels, and it just kind of tied in all these amazing things together that I never thought I was going to see in live action. Like, we got the Purgles in episode 1 of the season, and now we keep getting all these amazing sites that we never thought live action Star Wars was going to get into, because they're a little afraid of going into the weird in live action, and they're pulling it off amazingly, and I'm so excited.
But IGN gave the episode a 5 out of 10 though, so it can't.
I don't give a shit.
If IGN
I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, it's wild. It's wild, and not, I don't want to be bragging here, but at the premiere we saw a second episode, and it was one we didn't expect to see, like 2. So the minute that they gave us that, it was just like, oh, the gift that keeps on giving. What a delicious charcuterie board here that we have. Before we had like some, slices of American cheese, and now we got some Gouda, we got some Manchego. It was beautiful, because this episode just delivered on so many amazing things. And anyone who is a friend of the channel, who has been listening to our past coverage of Mando season 2, knows that I wasn't the biggest fan of season 2, because it felt somewhat derivative in terms of like story structures, and some of the reveals or payoffs didn't feel earned, at least to me. So I've always like had that. Not that I didn't enjoy it. You can criticize something and still enjoy it, right? So I was, I had my reservations of what season 3 was going to be, if it was just going to perpetuate the structures of season 2, especially with seeing what they did in Book of Boba Fett. I was excited but apprehensive, and this second fucking episode, man, it just did everything. It feels like Favreau did it for me. That's how it felt. It felt like Favreau
that's everything you wanted to see.
He said, like, prepare your anus, sit the fuck down, because this is everything. Remember everything you talked shit about me about season 2? Well, say goodbye.
You're not ready.
Say goodbye. Say goodbye, because you're going to eat your words, because everything is going to be flipped on its head, and then guess what? Fucking dinosaur at the end. I know it's a mythosaur, nerds. I know it's a mythosaur, but it's a fucking dinosaur.
This is Goose actively making sure I don't have to feel weird about being the first person to say fuck, by the way.
And he already said it, like 5 times?
It is
you hit the
it is the episode.
Subs golden ratio of saying fuck 5 times in 5 sentences. It was just boom, 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 fuck, fuck, fuckity, fuck.
That's
how you do it.
When things feel right, they must be right, and it was
exactly
the right time. Because like you
and
said,
this is the episode for that.
We went to Mandalore twice. We saw Daenerys. I mean, we saw bo-katan like in her castle. With Katie, sack off your wig. Girl, thank God the internet bullied your wig person, because that game, you got it. You got the right wig now.
And even with the helmet on, it's even better. She looks so incredibly badass, and the shield, and killing it with the Darksaber.
And our creepy Grievous wannabe droid. Oh my God, it was everything.
So you say Grievous? I was getting total Kazdan Paratus vibes.
Well, I was saying Grievous because someone actually reached out to me saying like, "Oh, do you think that was Grievous?" And I'm just like, "Oh fuck
No, it wasn't.
I saw that.
Grievous exploded.
I was so excited when I saw that thing because I took one look and I said, someone's going to say this is fucking Grievous in like 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
I was so excited because I saw people going like, it feels very Grievousy. And then I'm so happy to finally hear somebody go, not if it's General Grievous back from the dead.
It's like, he exploded.
No.
He has 2 eyes. That thing had 1.
Yeah.
It's like, no. I would buy it more if someone said that it's the little alien from Men in Black that lives inside like the dude's head. That makes more sense.
To prevent War of the Galaxy is on Orion's belt.
Right. That guy makes like he just went dark side, you know? That's it.
Yeah. Well, I also got like Darth Maul vibes from like when he was attached to like the spider thing.
Yeah.
And it didn't look like Grievous to me, but it sounded like Grievous.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought the sound editing was really cool, how it kind of combined all those things. So, but there were a lot of little sounds like that, like when Din pressurized the helmet, we get some Darth Vader. Like they're just very genius about adding these little things on, and the bo-katan theme and
the bo-katan. It's so good, so good. I just want to beat people up in the street every time that thing comes up. Jarod, what about you? What was your expectation actually for season 3 coming in, and has it been met now that we're in the 2nd episode?
It's weird. I was going to season. I was just excited to have this show back. You know, I've always been somebody who's like been a very, you know, like I like the Force, I like the Jedi, all that kind of stuff. So like going into the Mandalorian, like all the way at the beginning, I was like, this is cool. First live action Star Wars TV. You know, it's been a long time coming. You know, I'm excited for it, but you know, it's bounty hunter stuff. You know, I'll get into the underground stuff eventually. You know, it's just, you know, I want my Jedi fix.
Right.
2 seasons later, I can't watch the finale of season 2 without weeping like I just lost a loved one. Every time I decided I was going to become the person who rewatches stuff before a new thing comes out. And I was like, I'm going to get through the Mandoverse if it kills me. And watching like 2 days before the finale, like watching the rescue, I was so confident. I was looking at my girlfriend, I'm like, I'm gonna do it this time. I'm gonna make it through, and just immediately, like just uncontrollably, and it's so funny.
Ugly sobbing.
Yeah. And my poor girlfriend, just sitting there, just like, it's okay. And I was joking with her whenever she and my mother were making fun of me that I cannot watch this show without weeping at a puppet. You know,
it's completely legit to do that, though.
Yeah.
If Werner Herzog fell in love with Grogu, we all are allowed to.
My favorite story about this show is Werner Herzog bursting into tears upon meeting the Grogu Muppet. But yeah, I told my girlfriend, I was like, there's something deeply funny about you looking at me sobbing watching a show I've seen 1,000 times. It's saying, it's okay, or it's gonna be okay.
You're gonna get through this.
You're gonna get through this. Like, I know the credits are coming, and it has a post-credit scene for the Book of Boba Fett. But anyway,
rest in peace.
I had no idea what to expect going into this season, and the second trailer we got during Monday Night Football, I was incredibly excited, but I was also like a little prepared that I was like, I think we might get the Mandalore stuff out of the way super early on, because again, like we haven't seen any of the Coruscant stuff. You know, we still got to go back to Navarro for more fighting with the pirates from what we've seen. There's still that flashback to the Jedi Temple. Is it the Darksaber heist? Is it Order 66? Who knows? It could go either way.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know. I'm just so along for the ride. Like, I just love this show. I just love this show. You know, I'm just so excited. And one of the things I love about The Mandalorian is it is this fun blending of like the grounded part of the Western elements, the grounded part of like the samurai stuff that is very just wandering warrior making his way through the universe. You know, that like even with Grogu there, you know, there's all the mysticism of, I apologize for Naya barking.
This is a dog friendly environment. Do not apologize for dogs.
But yeah, like so you have those grounded elements, even with Grogu there, of just Din being this like white knuckle, hands getting dirty bounty hunter,
Mm-hmm.
and then you juxtapose that with like the mythic elements that really started to come into play in season 2, where like it on like not just the Force stuff, but like watching Din Djarin slay a dragon. Like that's literally how we start season 2. So there is an onus of like, okay, we are going to get so much more fantastical with this show. So now we have this very, it's in season 3 now, has this like, for me aesthetically and like vibe wise, this perfect balance of like the mythic and the Western. That I love it. Seeing that line that we got in the trailer, the whole, our people are scattered through the galaxy, our people are scattered like stars across the galaxy.
Like stars.
I was like, that goes hard. That's fucking hard.
Yep.
And but again, like hearing it in this different context.
Yeah.
Hear it in the trailer, the footage they show with it makes it seem like Din's like rallying Mandalorians, when in reality he's just lamenting the fall of Mandalore. I'm so excited to see how much of this is going to be different than what we were shown, but still, tonally, stay consistent with it, obviously. But yeah, no, I don't know how to answer the expectations question so much as it's just like the show just makes me happy to my core.
Oh yeah.
And
that's a perfect answer.
I said I was gonna try to like stop only getting Star Wars tattoos, but like the other night I looked at my girlfriend and I was like,
it's gonna happen again.
I think there's a Din and Grogu tattoo in my very near future. Like I can't, like it's just it hit that threshold of being so very much a part of like the DNA of this story that I love.
Could be like the Miyazaki version of Grogu. This is like the line work, very cute, That could be. Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna tell you what to get. Just saying.
But I mean, that's one of the best things about the show. We've always talked about how relationships are what makes Star Wars great, and how seeing the evolution of the relationship of Grogu and Din, because right before he gave Grogu up, it was still just a mission, and now he has finally accepted that he's really family. And I love when he talks to him as a Mandalorian, like this is where our people come from. This is our people's journey, like including him as a Mandalorian, and all the father-son teachable moments, like teaching him how to navigate and teaching him how to be a Mandalorian. And I loved the entire, I mean, sorry, Din, bad parenting, terrible parenting. I mean, you go to Mandalore, as soon as you realize that it's breathable, that's the moment that you get, backup. It's not when you decide to investigate the death tunnel with your baby.
Right.
But
but we know he's an idiot, so
it's part of the course. Programming is a hell of a drug. It is one hell of a drug.
But Nani, I wanted to piggyback about what you were saying about like Mando's journey, like how he's talking to Grogu and like talking about the displacement, right, of all Mandalorians. And to me, it's one of those things where I think it's unfair when people criticize Mandalorian about not being as deep as Andor, because it's not talking about these big sweeping themes, right? But I disagree. Just because it doesn't do it with a sledgehammer the way that like Andor does, it doesn't mean that it doesn't have
with a brick
to say about something. That was good. That was good. My boy Brasso. We'll see you soon. But with Mando, especially with this episode, for me, one of the most important and poignant things was the conversation about diaspora, right? Because Mando has always been about diaspora, about displacement, about who you are and what it means to be of your culture, even though you are away from your culture. And
never even been to your home planet.
And never even been to your home planet. Exactly. And for me, the most important scene that kind of summarized that experience, but for me, in a way, kind of hit home in terms of what happens with the Puerto Rican diaspora and Puerto Ricans from the island, is that scene between bo-katan and Mando when she's making him the soup.
With the soup.
Right?
Yeah.
That scene, because then she's just like, okay, here you go. Like, look, have some local cuisine. Like, so have some asopao, dude. And then he drinks and he's like, what the hell is this? And it's like, oh, the guy that's like the most thinks that he's an actual Mandalorian.
Who's talking about the way. And
and that really reminded me, because there's a lot of, we're both Puerto Ricans from the island, and it happens to me when, because we have like these unconscious biases, and sometimes those things, we say them, right? Even though they're
Yeah.
wrong, right? It's saying like those aren't real Puerto Ricans because X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Oh, they've never been
Yeah.
to the island, or they've never done this, or they've never eaten that, or they don't speak Spanish, or blah 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 blah. So like we always are trying to qualify what it means to be Puerto Rican, right? And like this whole diaspora conversation doesn't necessarily need to be about Puerto Rico, but we're Puerto Rican, so we actually so we see it through our lens.
But that is how you keep people down, which is what Bo-Katan says as well. It's like, we were not only destroyed, but we've been fighting each other for reasons that are so confusing that we can't even explain it. And that's how the Empire was able to destroy us to begin with, because they confused our ideology so much that we felt like we were different people. Right. And they are the same people. And even she, as she's talking to Din, she talks about everything with such sarcasm. Like the creed was just theatrics. None of this was real. Like when she even reads the sign of the
plaque. So many good choices from Katie Sackhoff as an actor. The glib way she's like, even tamed the mythosaur. Like
she's like, you need to get the whole tour. Let me read you. And with the disdain that she says it, I remember I was watching it and I was like, watch the mythosaur actually be there so it shuts the fuck up out of everybody, even me, because I've been very, critical of the religious indoctrination aspect of it, and being like, you have to let these myths go. The saber is Excalibur, let it die. It's just a symbol. You can't just use it you can't make people depend on this 100% without anything behind it. And then suddenly, yep, it shut me the fuck up too when I saw the mythosaur. And that's why the reaction of Bo-Katan is so great, because she's wearing the helmet, obviously, but you can see where the air bubbles coming out of her helmet, like the freak out of
the holy fuck balls bubbles of like.
I'm
are
literally
we sure that was
eating
a
my words.
mythosaur, not just like the Jurassic Park whale from Jurassic World? Kind of looks the same to me. I don't know.
Shut up.
Maybe I'm not a real fan. I don't know.
Get him out.
Shoot. I'm hosting this meeting.
But no, you're absolutely right. I think it is one of the only things that I'm like nervous about with this show and this season specifically, is how the landing will be stuck with the whole radicalism of it all. Like imagining like the SpongeBob rainbow on my hands as I said that. Radicalism called but sincerely though, like I'm very interested to see where this show falls, and like where like what decision is made on like, there is power in symbol, there is power in myth, there is power in faith, there is power in all of this stuff.
But cults
also,
are not okay.
But also the armorer is a cult leader, and there is religious extremism at play, and I don't know a better way to say this.
Spicy. Here we
I'm
go.
really hoping they show us. I really hope they show the armorer in the name of the way, in the name of the creed, do something fucking just reprehensible.
Oh, I think it's happening.
I want a very clear line in the sand, not just being mean to Din, not putting Din Djarin in a situation where he is like of his own free will, even though you could have a very long conversation about like the strains between like any type of like, again, cult programming versus like
indoctrination.
Like the ability of like indoctrination versus consent, and how those two things strain each other.
Right.
And her sending Din on what she thinks is a death mission, or is afraid for him to come back and inform her, no, you can still be rebaptized. All of that stuff. I want to see her. I need to see her do something reprehensible.
I mean, that's a great point, because not to cut you off, but because I was thinking that's the power of cult. It's just like when you have sole possession of knowledge, then you have power. But the minute that's subverted, you lose it. So I think that's a really interesting point of her being afraid of Din actually breaking like those precepts, right, that she has that are foundational to how she's controlling this group. So that would be wild. I think it's gonna happen, and I think that's a great idea.
Which is another thing that Bo-Katan mentioned, that they've lost their cultural memory. So even her, who was part of the royal family, didn't really understand the power of the myth. as more than theatrics. So I'm kind of afraid that they're going to say that cults are okay. I really don't want it to go in that direction.
Exactly.
No.
Because
absolutely,
as you know, I think it's no secret I'm a non-believer, but I do appreciate like the power of culture and tradition. I think those are very different conversations to have, like how you engage with religion and tradition. Those are, I think,
and I feel like they might be heading in that direction when Din pointed out that that section of the underground looked older. Mm-hmm. So it's more into like the mythos of the people instead of like this indoctrination that they started to kind of like control the people, because as she said that it's theatrics, that's a means of controlling the people through stories. But if you go into their actual deep history and kind of break with that indoctrination side of it, then it would make it so much more interesting and not creep me out, because cults creep me
out. As they should.
As they should.
Well, I mean, I think it's worth mentioning, like, you know, we don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know the origins of the Children of the Watch yet, but like, I mean, you don't have to be any type of like entomological expert to go watch Death Watch and like start connecting dots there.
Concordia, which they're
based on
Concordia.
So I really hoping there is a very clear, like, especially the way that the armorer has such disdain for bo-katan. For there to be some element of, she was ride or die for Death Watch until her family fell out of favor. And like that there really are just like this continuing doubling down on this extremist, hyper militant version of the Mandalorian culture. And a hijacking of it that, like, you know, again, like, I'm hoping that the armor by the end of this show has more in common with like the Mandalorians than Din Djarin. And I do think that, like, in a very, you know, Campbellian mythic way, there is a way to accidentally make Din rejoining this cult be framed as heroic. And, you know, once that happens, you know, then there has to be a reevaluation from us as the fans to go, okay, this is the direction they were going in, you know, and then get into conversations of, does it work for me or not? Or for whatever reason. But I too am like really hoping that at the end of this story, it does not resolve, like, as I've seen some people talking about, like that shot with Din standing with like the multicolored Mandalorians. Like, is he watching Grogu take the creed with this like a proud papa? And I'm just standing there with my jaw agape. Like, y'all are just super cool with Mando Jonestown. Like, we're all like, we're
drink the Kool-Aid.
That's
you drink the spotchka,
like that.
You know.
In terms of the journey, it makes so much sense that, like, because we see Din doubling down, right, and being like, I have to atone, and because I'm an apostate, so I have to be able to go back, because I'm rejecting my journey, right? Like, I just went through the whole hero's journey, but now I'm rejecting that path to kind of revert to like who I originally was, even though I know that is wrong, because we see that he's having cognitive dissonance about all these things. But I think that's going to be like the most important part for him in this season. I don't know if it's going to be next episode. I don't know if it's going to be further down the season. But now that you were saying that, I think it's going to be so powerful for him to come back to the armor and be like, I have atoned. I bathed in the waters. I saw the mythosaur. Like, we can come back to Mandalore, but have the armorer reject him and be like, no, like, I don't believe you, or like, you know, cults do that. They change the rules conveniently to find a way to exclude you based on what's convenient for them. And I think that's what's going to shatter his worldview again, to have him be like, holy crap, what the hell have I been doing all this time? And it's like everything that I've been fighting for is rejecting who I am, and like everyone that is telling me to come to them, like, you know, Grief, you'd be landed gentry here, or bo-katan being like, oh, help me do this, or Luke Skywalker or Ahsoka, like all these other threads that are pulling at me to be greater than who I am, than who I've been, than where I come from. Maybe they're the ones that are right, and the ones that are trying to shame me and turn me into just some acolyte, and who are now shunning me, are probably not the path that I should go. There isn't the way. There's only like my way. And I think that's going to be super important if it happens. I hope it happens. But like Nani said at the beginning of this episode, I'm always wrong. So
but I really hope they do. I mean, it's just what you were saying, Jared. Like, there's always the element of, if you're indoctrinated, how voluntary your decisions are. So I kind of really want him to show that he's intelligently making a choice that's good for him, because Grogu did. Grogu chose to be a Mandalorian because he wanted to be with his dad, because he felt more allegiance to his dad than to the Jedi, which is another form of indoctrination. So we saw it from Grogu's side. So I want to see it from Mando's side. Like, Din actually decide if he wants to be a Mando, it's because he chooses that path, not because he grew up in it and had no other choice and feels allegiance to it because it's the only thing he ever knew. So I really hope the element of choice comes into it.
I love that, because now, kind of thinking back to season 2 and season 1, Din has never actually made an active choice. He's never been like willingly, like, without any prompting, be like, I am doing this. Well, actually, that's not true. The only time he actually did do that was when he decided to go save Grogu. From Werner Herzog. And that's the first time we see him like be an agent of himself. But ever since then, it's just things happen to him and he reacts. So I think it's gonna be that powerful moment when he's finally able to be like, boom.
It's hard to break through indoctrination.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So,
oh yeah.
We've seen the documentaries.
Because you don't know. Because you don't know you're indoctrinated, right?
Yeah. In the same way that, like, Din is so taken aback by every time Mandalorians their helmet right off.
Yeah. It freaks him out still.
It's horrific to him.
It feels unnatural to him.
Yeah.
Even though in that beautiful scene that makes you ugly sob, it was so natural, and he was so happy when Grogu like got to touch him and feel actual connection. But I think he's just still in denial about that because he thinks it's wrong and shameful to have done that.
I really hope, not in like a gotcha kind of way, but provided that the shit does hit the fan between Din and the Armorer, and he realizes like I'm in a cult, they don't care about me, kind of revelation, that bo-katan does like pull that card on him, and it's like what are you going to do? Like, every time you're overwhelmed with the love for your son,
are you gonna deny it?
Are you going to deny it, or are you going to decide that now you just have to keep coming back to bathe in these waters?
Right.
Like
that's what Catholics and other Christians do. It's just like, I'm gonna keep sinning.
The hypocrisy of confession.
To the confessional, and just get it's just like, well,
no consequences.
It's like, yes, technically that's how the religion works, but
a confession basically functions the same way a meditation point does in Fallen Order. Just
exactly
get all your health and your stims back, and back out to
keep
go.
Going. It's just like life's a video game.
Okie dokie.
But that's not that's not actual growth. That's just that's a cheat code. Just keep doing what you want to do, but still have like some imagined moral high ground which doesn't even exist. Yes, I will say it doesn't exist, but whatever. That's neither here nor there. As usual, I mean, we kind of have been doing some sort of speculation. We haven't really been talking like specifically about the episode, but the ramifications, right, of what the episode means for who Mando is and what Mandalorian could be going forward. And we could be talking about this forever and ever in perpetuity. But there has to be a point where we have to go into our most expected segment, I think, which is responsible speculation.
Responsible speculation.
Jared, this is where we decide. This is where we decide to project what we think is going to happen either in the next episode or in the season, based on what we've seen so far. But responsibly, without getting butthurt if it doesn't actually happen, and be open to obviously being wrong, because we are usually wrong.
We are wrong.
So based on everything we've talked about, based on the Apostate and Mines of Mandalore, where do you think the next episode is going?
I think we are on track to see a very interesting sea change between Din and bo-katan. I think Din is going to be very gung-ho, like, I'm going to go back, I'm going to go, get, be the thing again. Which, whatever direction they go with Din and the Armorer, again, it fascinates me so much that I think the Armorer is afraid to let him back in because he has the dark saber.
Oh yeah,
and like that,
she already tried to get him killed to get the dark saber back on her side.
So, she fucking set him up with Paz Vizsla.
Oh yeah.
So what I think we're going to see is at the same time that Din is rushing headlong back into indoctrination, bo-katan is going to start like taking the legend more seriously. And once Din hopefully hits that brick wall of rejection, we're going to watch them reach an equilibrium of like Din not being like so fucking Mando pilled or watch pilled, I guess you could say.
Right.
And like but Bo not being as like, you know, like doom
cynical
scrolling.
and
Like that's the thing. Like Din is fully pilled into this cult, and Bo-Katan is completely black pilled. And I'm sorry, I'm using incredibly online conspiracy lingo. You know where my time on the internet is spent when I'm not talking about space wizards. It's dangerous waters.
The Mines of Mandalore, so to speak.
Yes. But Bo is just so consumed with this hopelessness, and Din is so radicalized into this cult that I think he needs to come down a little bit, and she needs to like get back off her ass. And like you then have like the fucking prophecy said, like the return of the mythosaur will hearken a new age of the Mandalorians. So I think it'd be
and maybe it is about them finding balance.
Yeah, you know, like there is power and there is hope in legend. Also cults suck. Also also the armor is fucking lying to you. So yeah, I think in terms of like expectations and predictions, I'm very excited to see like how what has happened will affect the relationship between Din and Bo-Katan moving forward. I don't know. I know I love doing predictions and stuff. It is one of my favorite things. It's like one of my big like nerd bragging right type things is that in the I said seventh grade, in the 11th grade, I sat down at lunch with my friends, our last lunch before opening night of The Force Awakens, and we like locked in our final predictions. I called the entire movie. That was like down to like very specific character beats because I just watched every trailer, like computer enhanced type shit.
Oh god.
I needed to like do everything I could, and I felt so vindicated. It's like predictions, they're fun. Just don't be a dick when you're wrong.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So this is my thing, and I love the fact that I have next to nothing for this season. You know, like
I know.
It's also good to come with no expectations.
Yeah, like, but also
we've seen most of the things from the trailers at this point, right?
Oh,
yeah. The only things that are really missing,
all this stuff, like there's like the Jedi.
Well,
stuff.
yeah, but we don't know what context they're showing up in either.
Exactly, and that's what's wild.
Because what we've seen so far wasn't in the context that we've seen in the actual episodes. Exactly. I was like, what? Oh, okay.
Well, there's also something interesting to be said for the fact that like the Mandalorian historically, and again, these first two episodes very much lean into it, and I think it's good. The like video game pacing that the Mandalorian has, where like, you know, Bo-Katan in season 2 told Din to go to Corvus to find Ahsoka Tano, and Din had to stop on Navarro first. You know, so like, who's to say that like between this week and like when Din goes to the armorer, we don't get round 2 with Papa Pirate King Gorian Shard? Like, who's to say we don't get like full on swashbuckling with Din Djarin by the next episode on his way, because for whatever reason Din needs to stop on Navarro, or on his way back to wherever the Mandalorian covert is, he doesn't get a call from Grief that's like, hey, shit's fucked, get here now.
Right.
You know, who's to say there? Like, another thing, going back to the apostate, I am very curious about is that Purgle that Grogu saw. There is a part of me, because I just so badly want as much Force mysticism bullshit to be at play, is that there was not a Purgle next to them. Grogu is sensing tremors of what's to come.
Interesting.
And like Grogu, he's
seen the trailer for Ahsoka, basically.
Yes. And then like Grogu in this very natural state, like in that, like the same way that people always talk about, like, children have like a propensity, again, whether or not you buy into any of this stuff is neither here nor there, but just for the sake of like trope, like how people always talk about like children have like have a deeper propensity for like the supernatural, because like there's just that like more innocent, not molded brain that like, ooh, this kid saw this thing that we don't really have an explanation for, and this kid would
More
not
perceptive.
have they're perceptive, and they're like they wouldn't have a greater context for this, but they like knew this thing, they said this thing, holy shit. To kind of Star Warsify that, to say that like Grogu in like what was kind of a pseudo meditative state. Can you guys still hear me?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Okay, cool. My computer did a weird thing and I wasn't sure. But in like a pseudo meditative state that Grogu didn't perhaps like start to see, like they're like the Purgle, and like that is a sign of things to come, in his own very like Luke in the cave of evil kind of way. So yeah, that's all I got for predictions.
Some sort of precognition.
I like the whole he's watching the trailer angle. Nani, how about you?
I still definitely want IG-11 back, even though I love the vindication of R5. Look at R5 like being a coward but overcoming it, and leading Grogu to bo-katan, which was amazing.
Confronting fear is the destiny of a Jedi. So kudos to R5 there. Yeah.
Yep. Awesome. I kind of really want to see bo-katan training Din on how to use the Darksaber.
Oh, a little bit like Kanan
with Sabine.
Okay.
Yes.
That'd be cool as hell.
And she would be a way much better teacher than the fucking armor. Aside from wanting the armor to be like obviously egregiously wrong in something, I kind of just want her to be like a legit hypocrite, and the times that she's not spending in the armor, she's like walking around like a normie without her helmet, and she's just full of crap because nobody knows what she looks like underneath.
That'd be hard.
So,
for her to just be completely full of shit.
I dig that. The thing though is that I think this show is about redemption, and I think this show is about like finding yourself, and I think ultimately it will be about reuniting Mandalorians and all that thing. So like I do think that
part of debunking the cult will maybe bring people together.
Exactly. So as much as I like defeating the armor and like she's the bad guy, so we have to either kill her or
hated the armor
exile her or whatever, all that stuff.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a lot more powerful to have her be like, oh shit, I was wrong. And how do I, I need to deprogram, and and be I need to be a cool bitch. And how do I do that? And I think that's not as exciting, right, or bombastic as like
well, and I feel like though I'm gonna say you're wrong though. No, it's not, because people that run cults need to face real consequences. It's not just okay to say, "Oh, I've been wrong and I've been indoctrinating 12-year kids into putting a mask on their face and not breathing fresh air for the rest of their lives in front of other people."
True, but my reason for that is that Star Wars has always.
I know you like redemption arcs.
It's not that I like. I mean, I do like it, but I think Star Wars has always been like, you're bad, you're dead. It's just like it's never been.
No, actually, it's worse. You redeem yourself, you're dead.
Like, exactly.
That's worse.
It's like there's no atonement. So it's just like that whole thing is like, hey, what does it look like to atone? We've never seen that in Star Wars, and I think that'll be like really important for Mando's journey to see like how he can like deprogram his cult and make them kind of come back to that light. So I don't know. I mean, obviously it's more exciting to see her fight with the hammer and sickle and shit. Well, hammer and sickle something else. With the hammer and the other thing with
the armor is not that based.
He is not. He is not. That's true.
I think the bar for like potential armorer like redemption in any shape or form is gonna come down to how in on the lie is she.
Like, did she really believe it, or was she just using it for control?
Is the armorer fully pilled? Like, is she like are we dealing with somebody who is like are we dealing
really
with
believes what they're selling?
Is it L. Ron Hubbard, or is like or is this fucking like David Miscavige's father? Because there's a difference between those two things.
They're kind of the same. They both know what's up.
And that's the thing, and that's why I said Miscavige's father, though, is like because like his father left the Church of Scientology.
Right.
He left the Church of Scientology and said that David Miscavige ruined it. So he fully believes in Dianetics and all of that bullshit, but said my evil kid hijacked it.
Yep. Where's Shelly Miscavige? Where is she?
Yes, where is Shelly Miscavige? I'm last podcast on the left fan, so it's on the mind. They just did a 3-parter on Miscavige, but still though, like that's the thing. Like, is she somebody who's fully in on the lie? Is she someone who's fully in on the con?
Yeah.
Or like, is she just as pilled as everybody there? She just got chosen to be a leader, and she believes what she's saying. So that is where you get a difference of, do you prove the armorer wrong, or does the armorer need brought to justice?
Right.
And that dichotomy there is going to be very interesting. Or does she need brought to justice but then repents? Like, that's where you get into like a very fun question there. But I need to see what the level of belief and radicalization is.
True. Yes.
Because I think it'll be a fascinating character beat for her. Like, does she really mean it? Like, or does she just want to have like this small army of Mandalorians to herself? No one worthy of the dark saber nearby. We tried to whack Din Djarin. It didn't work. Just kick him out. Fucking go. I don't think it is by mistake that, her instinct to have Children of the Watch, to have a Vizsla try to take the dark saber, that the moment Paz got beat, have you removed your helmet?
Yeah, you're an apostate.
Yeah, go. Like, bye. Okay, neither of us get the dark saber, but he doesn't have it, or he doesn't get to be here with it. And the only
because he's not a Mandalorian anymore.
Yeah, and the only other people who the dark saber would mean anything to probably don't even give a damn anymore. So win-win. We got out. We cut our losses. Din Djarin's gone. So that's
maybe she even tries to destroy the dark saber to be like, well, we're gonna.
And we're only in episode 2 of this season.
Only in episode 2. Oh my god, this is gonna be wild. Anyway, we could be talking forever here. I mean, because I was gonna go on a different tangent, but nope. Restraint is the name of the game for now. Jarod, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Here and making us go into wild and crazy places that I never thought we were gonna go. Before we sign off, why don't you tell us a little bit about Nerd Academy, what you guys are up to, and where everyone can find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Dark Jedi 2552, and you can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, wherever you get podcasts. Like I said, we're doing Mando and Bad Batch coverage right now. Shazam! Fury of the Gods, all the MCU stuff coming down the pipeline. You can also catch me competing in Epic Confrontations, the Star Wars Trivia League put on by Eli from Star Wars in a Galaxy. I have my fated rematch against Scotty J-Ro in April.
Oh my God.
It is to the day, a month away at time of record.
Your audio went out a little bit there, but I think we got it. Well, there we go.
Am I good?
And you're back.
You're back.
Okay, cool. I got nervous there for a second. But yeah, so a month from now, Scotty rematch. It's going to be live on the Bombad cast, and then it'll be put onto the Epic Confrontations YouTube channel. I also am in a Star Wars Edge of the Empire real play show called Ionized Bastards. I play a mysterious dark Jedi named Fabian Martell. We're going to be recording our final episode of the season very soon, so I'm so pumped for that. It's on the All Remaining Systems YouTube channel, DM'd by Michael McCoy. So very excited to film the finale. So go check that out. Ionized Bastards and Epic Confrontations are two of my favorite things I've ever done that aren't that. Yeah. So yeah.
Good. Sounds like a lot of fun stuff.
Oh, it's lots of collaborative stuff.
Yeah.
Michael Gate did me the blessing of finally pushing me over the edge into getting into like TTRPG stuff. My girlfriend and I early last year started watching Dimension 20, and it became one of my favorite things of all time. And like while we were watching it, or while we were watching one of the other seasons of Dimension 20 out there, they were like introductory one. Michael was like, "Hey, I want to do like a Star Wars RPG show. Are you in?" I said, "Absolutely, I am." So like I said, we got Ionized Bastards using Edge of the Empire, and now myself, my girlfriend, and a bunch of other podcasters are all have a D&D party now too. So
that's awesome. It sounds like a good time. It sounds like a good time.
I love it. Yeah, check out Ionized Bastards.
And we will try to leave links to it's a lot of stuff, so we will try to capture all of them and put them down in the description below. But if we miss some of them, just go to either Jared's profile or the Nerd Academy, and you
all that stuff is there. It's
so yeah, once again, thank you so much, Jared. What a wonderful time. And like we said before, there's a to be continued in
there's some good themes still.
A certain part of that conversation which will happen after I come out of hibernation. After a celebration. But please stay tuned. But before that, we're super excited for chapter what's the next one? 19 of the Mandalorians. But until then, Nani, take it from here.
Thank you so much, Jared. This was so much fun.
Oh, thank you. It's my pleasure.
Let's destroy some cults. We are Triad of the Force. You can find us anywhere that podcast can be found. Just search Triad of the Force and you will find us. Remember to like, subscribe, leave a comment. We will continue to review The Mandalorian till the end. Don't worry, we haven't forgotten about the Bad Batch. We had a weekend last week, but we're going to do a double episode of the last 2 episodes, which were fantastic as well, because the Bad Batch is awesome too.
I say that is a hell of a double feature. Holy shit.
Yeah. I didn't know those episodes were going to be linked, but it works.
We'll do it.
So until next time, may the Force be with you.